Hello everybody, we are back now for the final between Steve, French, and Thunder. Now, sadly we have a little bit of an error here with the spectator bug. We are actually not able to see the hand of Thunder again. So sadly, we tried fixing it. We could not figure out what was going on. So we're just going to go right into it, kind of guessing of what Thunder might have. And as we go into this game, we kind of just went ahead and kind of jumped right into it. We got to see the beginning of the game, and it was just really them playing. The board control, nothing really too special right now. We do see Steve having that Reno Mage while Thunder is bringing back his Tempo Mage. And the one thing about the Tempo Mage, I really love the Burglar Bully in this just because getting coins to buff or to get a lot of fireballs from your Arch Mage is just a really cool kind of deck. And even if you don't do it with that style, you at least just have coins to use down the line.
It just allows you a lot more flexibility, especially in a deck that really utilizes spells well. It's got the Flame Wakers for the extra pings, and just a bunch of cheap spells. You can get out a couple more because of those coins. It could really allow you to snowball in a way that you wouldn't really be able to do without that Burglar Bully. We do see Thunder playing out his Flame Waker, which is probably indicating to Steve French that this may not be the Reno Mage that he most likely was expecting. Taking a chance on the Flame Waker pings, he does get lucky with that.
Well, it was a 75% chance,
it was,
but yeah, so he didn't get unlucky. Yeah.
Yes.
Which in Hearthstone can sometimes be getting lucky, as we saw it. Like, sometimes it is the fact that if you're not unlucky, then that was lucky. Because we've seen it so many times. I can't tell you how many times where it's like, I do the math, and it's like, oh, I have a 90% chance of this going in my favor. It should always go in my favor. And then stuff like this happens when it just goes 4 to the face.
Yep.
And then that was just a weird thing of how that happened. But that's Hearthstone. Yeah, like you said. That is Hearthstone. Anything can really happen. So he's at
love
least...
it or hate it. That's how it goes sometimes.
Oh yeah. So
double Burglar Bully, interesting.
I really like that, and I really like also trading in that Flame Waker. A lot of people want to try to protect their Flame Wakers as much as possible, but leaving an Emperor up against a Reno Mage is just a death sentence.
It's such a powerful card when your opponent has 8 cards in hand, and a bunch of them are most likely expensive cards that that Reno effect is really going to help them out. Steve French plays out his Ethereal Conjurer. Not the greatest of options. Counterspell, I think, would probably be the pick here. It could cancel out some of Thunder's, good burn spells or removal, but Mirror Entity also interesting. If he plays something like an Archmage or a Flame Waker, you could get some value out of that.
Yeah, just from what we saw earlier, it is a lot of low-cost minions that we saw out of Thunder. I really like the Counterspell. It's just going to be able to, because most of the spells that you use are going to be the big-ticket spells. You might get rid of like a Frostbolt or something, but that's still pretty big, especially if they're at the end of the game trying to go for the Frostbolt and Ice Lance combo, trying to just nail you down with a bunch of damage, but he's going to go with the Mirror Entity instead.
There is that other factor. Because that Burglar Bully is on board, if he had played the Counterspell, most likely would have been a coin that
That's true.
Which is not a lot of value. So instead getting an Azure Drake is very useful here. It's another minion that your opponent wants to clear, which he can do easily with the Burglar Bully, but it's 4 less damage to face. That might be relevant.
I completely forgot about the coin, but as we saw, he didn't need to play into it because the Mirror Entity already went off, so just a great use of those ordering of the cards and just going to be able to control the board, deal some damage to face, and this is just looking so good for Thunder right now. He has that 7 health advantage, he has the board presence that he needs, and now it's going to be up to Steve to see what he's going to do. Now, we did see him actually draw a Kazakus Potion, but we didn't see what it was. Actually, a really good Kazakus Potion to deal with the board.
It's a very strong Kazakus Potion, clears your enemy boards, and gives you one of your own. I don't remember all the minions that Steve French has played, but Ethereal Conjurer, Azure Drake, both decent options to pick up, and so it could definitely be a significant board swing, which is exactly what you want in this matchup. You want to eliminate your opponent's board and set up your own so that they have to use their burn spells on your minions rather than your face.
I'm trying to think of what Steve's best option be here. If he uses Flame Strike and Arcane Blast, he does control the board, but he still gives 2 more coins over to Thunder. The only other thing I think of if he just uses Alexstrasza here to put a big minion on the board and force Thunder to deal with it and put his opponent down to 15 health. But it seems like he just wants to go ahead and deal with the board. Give him 2 coins, he's fine with that. But that's giving a lot of value over to this Burglar Bully.
Yes, but it also becomes a question of, how many coins does Thunder have in hand? How many actual cards does he have then? Can he really utilize those coins all that well right now?
Yeah, that is true. The acidic Swampoos just being a board presence right now. Actually going to be able to deal with that Drake fairly easily because it's just throwing it into it in the ping. But we'll have to see if Thunder... Throwing down the Mana Worm, I'm pretty sure he has some way to deal with it. Actually, maybe not.
No, just opts to basically let that acidic Swampoos trade into one of your minions because it's entirely reasonable, but it is good for Steve in that it can help him deal with either of them, either trading ping or just trading to the Mana Worm and Frostbolt the Azure Drake, which I believe is what we're going to see here.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to see here. And yeah, this is just looking really good for Steve at this point. Now, just looking at what Thunder has played, where it kind of have to speculate of what he's going to be using. Now, we are going to see that Archmage.
Combo you were talking about.
Yeah, I love it right now because he's going to go ahead and just put so many fireballs into his hand. You already see 2 coins being used. I think he has at least 1 more from the first Burglar Bully. Oh no, he used the coin last turn, so he's going to be forced to use it, but trading a fireball for a fireball is still a great thing.
And clearing off your opponent's Azure Drake, definitely good. Steve does have a reasonable answer to this in the fireball and the ping, but he looks like he's opting for the Alexstrasza, which is interesting, leaving up that Antonidas. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, but with the Ice Block and his reasonable amount of health, I suppose he feels safe, and he'd rather force his opponent to use the fireballs as removal rather than burn.
Not only that, but he does have lethal with the cards he has in hand. The 1 fireball on Alexstrasza will be enough to end the game, so I feel like he feels like to try to just push lethal here, force opponent to do something. Luckily, he got unfortunately, he got unlucky with those missiles going to Alexstrasza, so that is going to be cleared off. So there goes that potential win condition that he had. But if his Ice Block's not going to be popped, he could still be in a good position here.
Absolutely. He can still deal with his Archmage, although he may be leaving it up for another turn, which I'm not sure I like. But
I really don't like, but he's going to just go ahead and try to get some more fireballs.
He's picking up the fireballs to threaten lethal. He does have that Kazakus potion if his opponent's board does get out of hand. But
now this is up to Thunder if he has anything to heal himself with, but this might actually be game in favor of Steve French. He needs some sort of armor, healing, or even the Ice Block this turn.
I don't
and he doesn't have
he has it in his deck. Tempo Mage usually does not run heal, does not run armor or Kazakus, so this is going to be lethal for Steve French.
Yeah, so he's just going to go everything face. It's going to be 12 damage with the fireballs, 1 with the ping, and that's going to be game 1 going over to Steve French, getting a win with this Reno Mage.
Good for him. Like we saw last round, he's playing to his outs. He's playing to win, not just to survive or to deal with the immediate threats. He's seeing a line of play that can get him the win, and he goes for it.
Yeah, I definitely really enjoy that. So we will see him pick up the first win. We'll go into the next set of games, and we'll have to see if he uses the Warlock or the Mage this time around. And I'm just trying to see of what would be his best matchup against that Warrior. It will probably be that Warlock, I would say. Just because of the heals that it deals and its good board control. Because I think Rogue kind of just wants to be able to play to the late game, and I think Warrior is just so good at it, being able to be like, well, not allowing the late game to happen, that Rogue versus Warrior is just not going to be that good. So do you think he throws down the Warlock now to hope to get that matchup, or does he throw down the Rogue to try to get maybe the Rogue versus Tempo Mage matchup?
That's a good question. I know that when I play tournaments, I tend to stick with one deck until I can get a win. So if I'm Thunder here, I'm probably queuing up the Tempo Mage. So if Steve French feels the same way, then I think the Rogue would probably be a good deck to play against this. I believe that Reno Warlock is slightly unfavored against the Tempo Mage, so he probably wants to avoid that matchup if he can.
That's what I would assume as well, but the one thing that is kind of weird, I think every game we spectated is that the Shaman was banned out every single time, but that's just showing of how not only good Shaman is right now, but it's one of those things that you see a Shaman, you're still not sure of if it's going to be that highly aggressive Shaman or the little less aggressive but a little bit more board control kind of Shaman that comes out, so more of a mid-range. So it might just be the fact that it's one so good and so versatile that it could really be either of those styles.
Exactly. Shaman is a very oppressive deck right now. It's got the 2 main archetypes. You've got the aggro deck and you've got the mid-range Jade deck, and both of them are very strong, but they're strong against different things. So if you don't know which Shaman your opponent's playing, you could queue into a completely terrible matchup. So, And because Shaman is just so strong, it can pretty much always take a win, so just eliminating that is usually the best bet.
So we're going to see the Gadget Stand picked up really early here by Steven without any other minions. He doesn't have any other sort of play here, and this just doesn't look too good for him at this point. He needs some really early game stuff here, because the Gadget Stand he's not going to want to use until turn 6, just so he can possibly conceal it as well. But the Tomb Pillager, big pickup for him. He's still not able to play it right now, but turn 4 is better than a turn 6 play.
Yeah. He's not exactly getting what he wants, especially you're assuming your opponent is a Pirate Warrior, so you want your weapons, or not really weapons, you want your backstabs and your fan and knives and things to deal with those early minions that Pirate Warrior should be putting out. Obviously, Thunder has kind of missed his turns 1 and 2, which is interesting, but...
Yeah, only having an axe for turn 2. He has no weapons on board, and he doesn't have that consistent damage coming out, so... Turn 3 coming along. We'll have to see if he's actually going to be able to drop something. To the upgrade into... Maybe he's waiting... Oh, he drew Patches!
Patches in hand.
Ooh,
a little bit unfortunate, but at least he has, something... He gets to play it early, and, it's not terrible.
I was hoping we were going to see that 2-mana Blood Sail that comes out, and that would have been a really big buff, especially with the upgrade. But with the Tomb Pillager up, that big ticket item, or big ticket minion now out on there, and with Patches not really having almost negative value coming, like a 1/1 for 1 mana. It's a Stone Touch Spore, and no one's run Stone Touch Spore, I think, ever.
There was a time.
Way back in the
beta and such, but no, it's not a minion you want to be playing, and it does have the pirate synergy, but it's not exactly helpful right here. Thunder chose to go all to face. He really the 4/1 Fiery War Axe would have offered him a very good trade with that Tomb Pillager, but he chooses to put on the pressure, knowing that his opponent does not have a lot of heal or taunt or any sort of defensive capabilities. He's looking to remove your minions, but Thunder just wants to take everything he can and go straight for the kill.
Yeah, I guess he's kind of playing around maybe Eviscerate here. That would have been the one thing that would have gotten rid of that minion regardless. So I think if he realized that he just wanted to guarantee that damage coming in, and that the prep coming in, he's just going to really, really buff up this Tomb Pillager as much as possible. And it looks like he's going to turn into the aggressor now and go face. Not sure how much I actually like this play, though, just because you're against a warrior. Yeah, you get to conceal it if they can't deal with it, but you're 6 health away from death.
It sets up lethal for next turn, and we've seen that Steve French is not a player who's, very... if your opponent has the damage, they're going to have the damage. It's not worth... He sees that it's not worth playing around. Now, Thunder does have the Leroy Jenkins for the finish, which is unfortunate, but there's not a lot that Steve could have done to avoid that coming out eventually.
It might have just been one of those plays that if he went and traded instead, it would have been... just a 1-turn saving grace, but then, as you said, Leroy comes out, more damage comes in, maybe he has more weapons as well, just to continually apply pressure, so it might have just been one of those where it was an inevitability at that point.
By making that really big minion, if your opponent didn't have the damage behind in hand to finish you off, he may have been forced to dump some of it into preventing lethal, but unfortunately, it didn't quite work out for Steve. He took a risk, it didn't pay off, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things. It's better to give yourself 1 turn left to live, but a percentage chance to win, than let's say, oh, I keep myself alive for 2 more turns, but I'm lowering that chance of winning. It's one of those things where you want to maximize your chance, and he thought at that point, just go for it now. I lose. I'm going to lose in the late game anyway.
We've seen this repeatedly from Steve French. He plays to his outs. He plays to win, not just to survive, which is a mistake that a lot of players make when they're early on, and even more experienced players. I know I do it far more than I should, but
yes, I always play to I maximize my board control or maximize this instead of maximizing the win condition or maximizing your percentage of winning. And that's what we see from Steve is he makes these what we feel like is unorthodox plays, but he feels it as the best chance he has to win. Now, with them both deciding of what they want to pick up, do you think it's going to be the Rogue Mirror match? Do you think they're both going to play out their Reno decks? Or no, that's a Tempo Mage, I keep forgetting. Do you think it's going to be that Mage versus Warlock instead? Or do you think Steve might go ahead and try again with that rogue? He realized that he was practically one turn away from winning, so he might think, just going to try it again and see if it works for me this time.
I think if I'm Steve, I'm queuing up with the rogue here. In the mirror match, it's roughly 50-50. If he feels that he's the better player, if he knows the matchup better, he can try to increase his odds in that respect. And it's, like we said earlier, the Tempo Mage is pretty favored against the Reno Warlock, so it's not something that he wants to try to delay. He wants to try to avoid that matchup if at all possible.
All right, so sorry, just talking to one of the players right now. They're getting ready for the next game, and as we see that they have to decide of what they want to play, it looks like they are ready. But it looks like it is going to be that Rogue versus Tempo Mage matchup this time around.
I think this is a good matchup for Steve, or at least this is the one that he wanted. He has a chance, like we said, to really put out that pressure early, and before his opponent gets a chance to burn him down. They're both kind of decks that are trying to put out the pressure, and if he gets the win here, then he gets his Reno Warlock against Thunder's Rogue, which is probably the preferable matchup.
Yeah, I definitely would think that. So this is almost a must-win by Steve because he doesn't want that Warlock versus Mage matchup down. Oh, wait, no, what am I saying? Because if he wins with the Mage. I'm trying to think of... Rogue versus Rogue would work for him, and so would the Warlock. So this would actually be a must-win by Thunder now that I think about it. I was kind of mixing up here because he doesn't want that Rogue to face that Warlock. Because I really put it in favor of that Warlock to win. He wants to try to get that Rogue versus Rogue matchup and win on that. So we are going to see the patches come through now here for Steve. He got lucky this time, didn't draw it like Thunder did last time. But we actually saw how patches being thrown out on turn 2 by itself didn't actually really need to be used to its full effectiveness to give that warrior the win.
Yep. Interesting choice beneath the grounds. I would imagine this is kind of a counter to the Reno decks out there. It basically negates their Reno and their Kazakis, and that's very useful.
Yeah, so Steve here might be thinking like, wow, this is huge for me. I actually got it out there. His Reno deck is no longer going to be working, unless he's starting to realize this might be a Tempo deck.
He's already seen the Tempo Mage in Game 1, so he does know.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he knows that, but as we saw earlier, it was the best play for him.
Yes.
Again, the Burglar Bully. Really like that card choice by Thunder, just because we've seen it get so much value out of it.
It definitely has. It was a surprising choice when I first saw it, but I've definitely kind of been sold on him. Those coins have gotten him a lot of value with the Archmage, and just in general, it's a really interesting choice that maybe Tempo Mage will start making a comeback with. Obviously, it's not as prominent as the Reno Mage, but it's had some decent results here in this tournament. So
yeah, and I've been seeing that Burglar Bully kind of out quite a bit now, and I've seen, like I said, I've casted a Penn State game where I think they ran it in their Reno deck. I think it was still a Reno Mage, but with Burglar Bully and Archmage. So maybe they played a more Tempo Reno hybrid. I'd have to go back and look at the game then to see how they did it. But Steve here is just going to play the control, go ahead and sap it, make him use that full mana to get it, and he's going to get the ambush draw. That's huge for him this early on.
That's very significant. He already had, a little bit of a board lead with that small-time Buccaneer, but the extra 4/4 is very good, and it forces his opponent to react in some way.
Which is going to be a coning out for the Firelands portal. Kind of, I want to say a low roll at this point just because of how easily it's going to be cleared off. If he had board control and grabbed that would have been really big. But because he has no board, no way to use that inspiration, just going to go down to a backstab, and it's just a little bit of a low roll this time around.
Mookhless Champion, great card in certain conditions, but not exactly when it's your only minion on board and you just coined out to use all your mana. So yeah, we do see that Burglar Bully played back down by Thunder. That's just going to, again, force... You saw that Steve didn't have like a good way to deal with it. The zap just kind of, temporarily removes it and gives him a coin, so it's not amazing. Now,
Yeah, I was trying to see of what Steve might do. He could get actually a pretty decent Edwin out this turn. It would be an 8/8, I believe. Not the biggest Edwin that you would be able to get, so it looks like he's just going to go ahead and use his gadgets, and he already has the conceal, so no point of holding on to that. He will be able to deal with his burglar bully. Pick up a confiscated coin as well. Actually, he can still put a decent Edwin out, but without concealing it, I don't think that's the right choice. But with this, it's going to allow him to eviscerate and conceal and just get a bunch of cards in his hand.
I think he's going for the Edwin here, going to play out those big minions. Force Tempo Mage is not a deck that runs.
10/10, I mathed wrong.
Yeah. Tempo Mage is not a deck that runs things like Polymorph. Most of its most of its spells are damage based, so he'd have to sink like a Fireball and a Frostbolt and a Ping, or 2 Fireballs or something to deal with this 10/10, which is a big use of removal that you would otherwise be using on your opponent's face as a Tempo Mage.
Yeah, so Thunder is able to use this Archmage out. He's going to throw out some low-cost spells, a coin, and the missiles as well. Another set of missiles, too. We'll have to see if he has more coins and Frostbolts as well, because this Edwin's going to be able to run rampant, and that's 14 damage. Does he have enough damage in hand? Yeah, I think that's game. Conceal into Eviscerate into Cold Blood is going to be enough.
That looks like lethal. That is game 3, I believe, going over to Steve French.
Yeah, with a nice pickup there, the Edwin was the right play here. He even picks up a Lever for additional damage if he wanted to go down that route, but he's just going to go with the original plan with the Eviscerate and throw everything downtown, and that's going to be a win for him. So all that's left is his Warlock, and he has, what we said earlier, a good matchup and a bad matchup left for him. So I really like those choices there. Steve there realizing that throwing that Edwin was what he needed. He just needed any sort of damage to come in to win. And with everything sticking, like you said, the Tempo Mage doesn't run Polymorph, doesn't run any sort of hard removal. They just run damage. Didn't have any sort of freezing as well. So the Edwin was free to go face. Those 2 spells was all that was needed to go for the win.
We've seen this from Steve French repeatedly. He sees a line of play, in this case the big Edwin, followed up by the Cold Blood and the Eviscerate, that shows him potential lethal next turn or the turn after, and he chooses to go for it and take the chance that maybe his opponent can deal with the Edwin, but if he can't, it's just a game win.
Yes. And I actually really like this play against Thunder. We said that the Rogue was the better matchup for Steve in this one with the Warlock, and with going with it first, it gives it makes Steve kind of run cold on this Reno Lock deck. Because sometimes when you run a deck twice in a row, you kind of get a little bit of a feel for it as you go with it. But because he has to run with it the first time, he has to hope that it works out for him. And as we say for this turn, opening up, he actually has some pretty decent early game cards coming out with the Dark Peddler and the Acidic Swamp Ooze, which is going to help him, especially with the Buccaneer that just came out.
Yep. We saw Steve keep Reno Jackson in his mulligan. That's something you always want to keep. That's just allows you to play a lot more liberally with your health pool, and it offers, in case your opponent gets that really high roll start, very aggressive, you can just counter it with Reno and stabilize or take your chance to to come back in the game.
And we see that he already taken 8 damage by turn 2, but doesn't matter for him. He has that Reno. So with that and the cards he has in his hand, just go ahead and Mortal Coil the patches, get that away. And it looks like he actually went to the Acidic Swamp Ooze, the weapon here. Curse of Rafam, a very interesting choice here. Is that more of against the Reno Mages to deal with Ice Block, or is there a different reason to run Curse of Rafam?
I think you hit the big one. I think a little bit of Ice Block damage, or just forcing your opponent to play a little bit off curve, or use a little bit extra mana that they hadn't otherwise planned to. It can, on crucial turns, like your Reno turn, like your Brand Kazaka's turn maybe, it can be a very big block to your opponent.
Yeah, so we see here actually on turn 4, Steve's just going to use Kazaka. Sometimes using Kazaka's on curve, even with the Brand in his hand, he realizes his win condition is not that Brand Kazaka's combo. He wants to do something turn 5 with this Kazaka's potion. And I'm pretty sure he would have went with either, I think it was a damage aura that he would be able to clear off the board. And I don't know if Ichor of Undeath would have been a good choice here, but not the greatest of second options there. But he's actually going to polymorph a random minion. Okay.
That's good. That will allow him to deal with, say, a Stealth Gadget Zan or a very big Edwin. And like you said, none of his options were amazing there, but this does give him some counterplay to put some threats from his opponent.
We're kind of seeing the Rogue here actually kind of slowing down, not having a good turn 4 here. Actually, nothing going down. That's not good at all.
Not the strongest couple of turns, really, from Thunder here. You know, just, you know, a Buccaneer, Patches, Buccaneer, now the Backstab. He's must be sitting on a lot of conditional spells. You know, the AO, like things like Fan and Knives or Saps, and you know, maybe some damage like Eviscerate, some Cold Bloods.
Yeah, and even though we saw Steve there play very loosely with his health, he life tapped a couple times in the early game, he can actually hold down to his Reno right now. And with that Dirty Rat, if he thinks that his opponent might have the Questing Adventurer or Edwin in his hand already, he might try to snipe it, and will he get it? Oh!
He gets the Gadget Sand. That's another one that he definitely wanted to see him with the Shadow Bolt. It's a perfect clear. Definitely removes a lot of his opponent's card draw engine. Which
here's another one.
He does. He does have the other Gadget Sand, but you know, we saw Thunder use double Gadget Sand to pull off a lot of draw and a lot of combo. So.
Yeah, so luckily for Thunder, he had that additional one. He's going to have quite a bit of card draw. This is going to be his second card already, and then the third with the Fan and Knives. I'm going to guess that he has another coin, or a confiscated coin, and a conceal, or a prep conceal of some sort, because I'd be very surprised. He's actually just going to keep it up.
He's satisfied with those basically 3 draws he got off of the Gadget Sand. Maybe he was hoping to pick up a conceal or a prep to use the conceal or a coin, but because he didn't, you know, maybe he's okay with this. Maybe he has the combo pieces he needs. You know, his opponent's only at 17 health. You know, that's Leroy, Cold Blood, Eviscerate or something. You know, it's not impossible, especially considering the fact that we've seen him hold on to a lot of his cards. But if Steve does feel like is a little bit confused by that Gadget Sand like we are, you know, maybe he just didn't get lucky, but maybe he wants Sereno. Maybe he wants to play it safe or, you know, use a taunt like that second rank bruiser.
Yeah, because we did say earlier how the fact that he did hold on to a lot of cards, which we think it's either conditional cards such as the Sap or Cold Blood, or it's combo pieces like the Cold Blood, Eviscerate, and stuff like that he wants to wait till late game. Going to go with the Runic Egg here, which usually I don't like coming out of it, but because Warlock does have a lot of AoE, it works well for him because he's actually going to have quite a bit of ways of proccing that himself.
None of his other options were really that great, so you know, it's a card draw which is useful, and like you said, he can pocket himself, or he has things like possibly Defender of Argus or Sun Fury Protector to, you know, force his opponent to deal with it.
And then actually a fairly weak, both Edwin and Questing Adventurer so far. He didn't get to go ahead and do what that Miracle Rogue loves to do and just make a huge Edwin, make a huge Questing Adventurer. So with that Kazakus Potion dealing with both of the win conditions from Rogue right now.
That was exactly what he wanted with his Kazakus Potion. It dealt with a Questing and an Edwin, so now his opponent's threats are really limited to probably one more Questing and Leroy combo. So
yeah, that's really it. So we have to hope that Thunder has those components right now, or it's going to be Steve going to be able to take these finals, take those championship points for himself, and he's just going to pass on turn 8.
Passes his turn. That is not a good sign.
Wow, and with this
French dropping the Reno to pretty much secure the game, unless Thunder has something miraculous in hand.
Yeah, and this is one of those moments where I wish I could see Thunder's hand just to see what he's holding on to, and I'm trying to see if he has all the combo pieces, he's just waiting for a turn to use it, or what it is on his hand. But he's getting more card draw for himself. Hopefully, he has some way to deal with the board right now, because he is actually getting fairly low in health right now at 20, while Steve is just willing him down. Not looking too good for himself just yet. So with the Eviscerate, he's going to be able to clear off that Reno. Going to cost him quite a bit of his health pool right now. And it's just looking so good for Steve.
Yep, Steve's looking in a pretty strong position. His opponent's not really putting on any pressure. He's drawing a bunch of cards. We see the Leroy in hand, which probably indicates that the Faceless and Power Overwhelming combo is also there. So his opponent's entirely within his burst range if he gets a couple of lucky draws. He has removal in the Siphon Soul and heal and the Refreshment Vendor. Steve's looking very solid in this match.
Thunder, though, not completely out of it, actually able to clear off quite a bit of this board. But he's just going to surrender, actually. Didn't get the draws that he needed. And that's just going to be Steve taking the win here, actually winning today's tournament.
Steve French. Congratulations to him. Thunder put up a good fight, but that Rogue just... That's kind of what Rogue does sometimes. Sometimes it draws very, very well. Sometimes it draws very poorly, and it didn't work out for Thunder in this scenario.
Yeah, Steve not only getting a great Dirty Rat there, picking out the Auctioneer, so that was another one of those win conditions of getting an Auctioneer and getting a lot of card draw out of it. He only got, like, out of his 2 Auctioneers, I think, like, 3 cards.
I believe
and that's kind of low for 2 Auctioneers. Like, if it was just, you run 1 in the deck, you want some card draw, 3 is decent, but if you have 2 in your deck and you only get 3 cards out of it, it's
what you really want with that Gadget Stand is to just go nuts. You get the coins, you get the preparations, you get the counterfeit coins, and just to keep drawing through half your deck in a single turn. That's why it's called Miracle Rogue. That's the miracle it pulls off, and didn't quite happen for Thunder in this case, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so great job from both Steve French and Thunder. Thank you guys for allowing me to cast your games. It's been great. So Steve French there actually going to walk away with the 5 championship points today. But hey, Thunder, he made it through the 216 player tournament. 256.
Yep.
I'm thinking of 500. That's what the 16, or it would have been 12 anyway. But the 256 player tournament,
and
getting
coming in
3
second, he
championships.
gets 3 points for himself.
Yeah.
Definitely respectable and a good showing, you know.
Oh, yeah. So Matt, also thank you for casting with me. It's been a pleasure
Thanks
to have
for
you.
having me.
Yeah, anytime. Hopefully you can come back for some of the other casts down the line. But thank you guys for watching as well. But that's going to be it for us tonight. We'll be back another day probably to cast. Not really sure what day I'll be back. But if you guys follow my Twitter, I'll be posting again when I know that I'll be casting again. So thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for allowing me to cast. And we'll see you guys next time.